Hey everybody, it's Pastor Charles Roberson from Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship here in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm so excited about Faith and Blue Weekend. Faith and Blue Weekend is a weekend that we take time to celebrate our local law enforcement and to thank God for all that they do for us as a community. In addition to that, we want to build bridges, we want to build stronger ties with the law enforcement community and the faith community, and I'm so excited about this opportunity. You know, our church, Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship, has been a part of this community for 20 years, and we're so grateful for the opportunity to be a part of helping Savannah to be a better city. We love to do outreach. We love to work with all of our community partners to make our city a better community. And I'm so glad today that I get to talk to one of our police officers, not only just a police officer, but someone that I've known and someone that I'm very proud of who's doing an amazing job at the Savannah Police Department. So with me today is Captain Shanita Young, and she is a captain with the Savannah Police Department. Welcome, Captain Young.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
We are so glad, I am so glad to have you today, and I'm looking forward to having a very engaging conversation with you. And just want to ask you a couple of questions about Faith and Blue Weekend.
Sure.
So I want to start out by asking you just to introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about you, and just tell them what drives Captain Young.
Okay. Well, I'm Shanita Young. I'm a captain here with the Savannah Police Department. Right now, my current position is on the east side of Savannah off of Victory Drive. I'm a native here at Savannah, born and raised, grew up, went to school here. I have to tell you, H.V. Jenkins.
Right.
That's my home school, and I went off to Valdosta State where I got my criminal justice degree. I came back home and got on the police department. This is something that I've always wanted to do.
Wow.
I have family that's in law enforcement. I have an aunt and uncle that's retired FBI.
Wow.
And all of my family really been in service between law enforcement or the military.
Wow.
Yeah, so,
That's a lot.
yes.
So let me ask you this. What does it feel like being from Savannah, growing up in Savannah, and becoming a police officer in your own city? That's got to be amazing.
Yeah, it's very important to me. I did a lot of volunteer work, whether it was through church, school,
Right.
the community, and it's very important for me to come back home and work at home with a lot of people that I grew up with, a lot of family. So just being able to help and just for them to see me in this role means a lot. So so it meant a lot to come
That's
back
good.
home.
Well, I want to thank you, Captain Young, on behalf of the faith community. I want to thank you for all that you do, but not only you, all of your colleagues, all of your fellow officers at the Savannah Police Department and the other police departments, all of your law enforcement partners. We want to thank all of you because our community would not be what it is without you guys.
Appreciate that, definitely.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I
the
know,
support is big.
yes, and I know this is not an easy time to be in law enforcement. I also understand that when we run away from trouble, you guys run toward trouble.
That's correct, yes.
So we certainly appreciate you, and we appreciate all of the Savannah Police Department.
We appreciate that. Every time you see an officer and you tell them thank you for your service, it means a lot.
Definitely.
It definitely does.
Now, with that being said, some people say that law enforcement is a thankless job. Like, you get a lot of criticism, but you don't hear a lot of thank yous. Is that true?
I guess for me it's a balance.
Right.
Sometimes when you go out on scenes and it's heated because people are going through situations,
Right.
you're gonna get that.
Right.
But normally when I walk in the streets or I'm in and out of stores, businesses, going to community meetings, it's all positive.
Right.
So that's why I said it's a balance. It's dependent on the situation and what's happening at the time. And as an officer, you got to be understanding to that.
Definitely.
Yes.
Well, that's great. And, you know, I get a chance to work with law enforcement officers a little bit, and I get to learn a little bit about you guys. And what I think everybody would want to know, too, is that, number one, you guys are people.
Yes.
You have families, you have children you're raising.
Oh, yeah.
So there's life after your shift. So I think what's important for the public to know is that just like everyone else, you guys want to go home safely.
Oh,
You
yes.
want to live in a great community. You want your kids to live in a great community. And I'm sure when someone comes up and they'll say, well, thank you for what you're doing, it means so much and it goes so far.
Oh, yes, it does. It definitely does. And when we have that interaction with the public, we're thankful that somebody just took the time out,
Right.
to say those things and acknowledge the work that we do.
Right.
Because we know it's not a safe job, but it can be rewarding.
Right.
Because
Definitely.
we see as far as the end result sometimes
Right.
of our work.
Right.
So it's good.
That's good. Well, that's what this weekend is all about. That's what Faith and Blue Weekend is all about. It's
Yes.
about bringing faith and blue together. I'm representing Faith, and you're representing Blue.
That's right.
And it's about the partnership. And what Faith and Blue Weekend is really about is about strengthening the ties between the law enforcement community and the faith community and bringing us all together so we can work together. Because, as you know, together we're always stronger. And the other thing is this, too. The faith community is a real major part of the community.
Oh, yes.
The faith community, we do a lot of things, and the law enforcement, you guys do a lot of things, but I kind of see it like this, I think sometimes you have to work on the head and the heart. And maybe sometimes you guys are focusing more on the head, and maybe we can focus more on the heart.
Right.
Because it takes all of it together to really make a better community. And that's what this weekend is all about, all across the nation. It's about bringing faith and the blue together and working together to improve the community.
Yes, you're exactly right. And then I guess sometimes we don't take the time out to see that in the officers too.
Right.
Because, they do care. They
Right.
take the time out to even go beyond as far as after they get off of work. Sometimes, they still engage those citizens
Right.
and be able to help. So a lot of times you don't see that.
Right.
And it's not just when the call ends. So a lot of officers definitely care about the community and care about the end results.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're so grateful. I've said it before, but we're so grateful for all of you guys and all that you do. And I don't know what our communities would be like without our police department.
That's true.
Now, with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about challenges in law enforcement, because sometimes the public, they don't know the challenges. Like, I know a little bit of the challenges. I've heard stories about how, police officers sitting in the car and all of a sudden the call comes in, heart rate goes up. I've heard some of the stories about distress because you see so much negative stuff and so many negative things people are doing all the time. So I know there are a lot of stressors and a lot of things, but could you take the public just on the inside of what's the day of a law enforcement officer like from start to finish?
Okay, well, for an officer, definitely getting up, getting your family together. Once you get whether you have a spouse or significant other and your children off to school or whatever you have already planned, and then you're going to work.
Right.
When you get to work, you're dealing with people calling 911 for help.
Right.
They're not calling 911 in order to tell you have a great day or thank you for your service. They need that assistance.
Right.
Because whatever
Right.
they have going on at the time, they can't control it.
Right.
So when you're there and you're going to these calls, it's unknown. It's unknown what you're going to deal with as far as your interaction, the attitudes. That's the frightening part.
Right.
So
Right.
once you get there, they're going to feed off of you.
Right.
I'm a strong believer of that.
Right.
And whatever energy the officer puts out, that's what's going to be reciprocated back.
Right.
And sometimes the officer have to get that person off that high
Right.
or whatever is going on to calm the situation down.
Right.
And then we can come to a solution. So when officers go to calls and they're faced with not just the attitude, but the phones in the face and
Right.
the
That's
video
a lot.
recording and stuff
Right.
like that, or they're getting ridiculed for just being present.
Right.
And
Right.
they're being called there. It's not something that, I'm just going there and just to bother someone. They're going to help the
Right.
situation. And so the bystanders sometimes can add to the confusion
Right.
of what's going on. So that could be challenging. And then, we get faced with a lot of problems here, whether it's speeding complaints, it's entering autos,
Right.
auto thefts, violent crimes, and people want their communities to be safe.
Right.
So we have to go out there and take the initiative to address these issues.
Right.
So when we do so, there's some things that's going to be initiated,
Right.
in order to say, okay, why are you over here? The residents may call, but some don't want to come forward. So we have to take the butt of all that.
Right.
So
That's a
those are
lot.
some of the challenges that we face.
That's a lot of challenges.
Yes.
I commend you.
Yes.
I commend you guys.
Yes, yes.
So not only, when we talk about challenges in the life of law enforcement, so not only are you a law enforcement officer, but you're also a leader.
Yes.
Not only are you a leader in the police department, but you are a precinct commander, right?
That's correct. Yes.
So that's a whole different set of responsibilities, and I want to dig into that just a little bit. So how many, first of all, tell us about your precinct and where you're a precinct commander at.
Okay. I'm on the east side of Savannah.
Okay.
Yes, so
That's the good side
that's
of
the
Savannah.
good side of Savannah. It is.
That's right. That's right.
We're located off of Victory Drive.
Okay.
And my whole area will range from President Street all the way to Middle Ground. So I have
Wow.
Lake Mare, I got Daffin Park,
Really?
Skidaway, Waters, all the state streets. So it's a pretty large precinct, and then with the officers that we have there, it could be challenging.
Right.
Because just like you said in the beginning, we're people.
Right.
So not just taking on the public's problems, sometimes the officers have things that they have to deal with.
Right.
And they have to balance between work and home.
Right.
And as a commander, I have to make sure that that's being done. Because when we go out there as officers, you can't bring those challenges in
Right.
that you have at home. You have to
Right.
deal with it, and those are things that I have to recognize in
Right.
order to help the officers out.
Wow.
So yeah,
How many officers would you say you have at your precinct?
a little over about 60.
Okay,
Yes.
so you're like responsible for 60 other officers
That's correct,
who come into
yes.
you all the time. So you're kind of like a pastor like me then. I mean,
Oh yeah, it's like I'm the chief of my own little section.
That's right.
So yes.
And I know a little bit about that. I've been a pastor for 31 years.
Yes.
So I know that's not easy. I know what it's like to lead a congregation, but I also know what it's like to help people deal with things in their personal lives.
Yes.
And it can be really tough. And leaders have to find a way to manage things, because
Oh,
if leaders don't manage their time and manage their resources, manage their own personal emotions, manage their own family life, personal life, they will be all over the place.
That's true.
So
Yes.
I commend you for doing that, and I commend you for just leading the other officers and just doing all you do on the east
I
side.
appreciate that.
And then I'm from the east side. So the east
Yes.
side, as we say, is my hood. It's where I'm from. I'm proud of the east side. I think the state streets and all that's the best part of Savannah, because that's where I'm
Absolutely.
from. And I celebrate my community. I'm really glad about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm happy to be there.
Yeah.
We have a great group of officers that's over there, even civilians that work in the precinct, and
Right.
they really engage the public, and they try to figure out as far as what the needs are
Right.
and how we can help.
Right. And that's why I mentioned that earlier, because this weekend is about faith in blue. And I mentioned the head and the heart for a reason, because a lot of people in law enforcement have come to embrace the idea of holistic policing. A lot of departments have embraced the idea of taking some of their officers and putting them out to maybe identify people with mental health challenges and other things. Because what we're finding out is that everybody's not acting out because they're a bad person.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people do have something going on in their head or something mentally that's happening with them, and being able to help them and get them resources is really important. So where the faith community comes in, I think we spend a lot of money and time trying to give people counseling and trying to fix their head and trying to fix their problems in life. And, we do a lot to get people jobs and make sure they're being educated. But I think we forget about the heart sometimes. And I think that's really where the faith community comes in, because I believe only God can change the heart.
Right.
And you can give people all the resources, you can give them all the counseling, you can give them all the opportunities, but until that heart changes. So I think the partnership between the faith and the blue is really powerful, because as you guys are doing the things you're doing, the faith community, we're doing the things we're doing, and together it's going to make a huge difference in all the communities. So I think this weekend is really important.
It is.
And for people who are watching, even faith, people of faith and churches that are in the East Side Precinct, I think there's important for them to know that there's a precinct commander that wants to reach out to them and work with them and help build that community together. Because for Savannah to be the city that's set on the hill, and for Savannah to shine and be all that it can be, it's going to take all of us working together. And I guess that's what gets me so excited about Faith and Blue Weekend, is because I don't believe we're islands. I believe we need to help each other.
Oh, yes, definitely. Y'all are the connector between the residents and the police.
Right.
And the main thing is we need to know what social issues are going on.
Right.
What problems that y'all have identified in the community.
Right.
And when you bring that, a lot of resources come through the police department.
Right.
Because we have a lot of businesses that want to work with us,
Right.
a lot of organizations. So instead of us sitting on this information, we need to know what's going on so we can
Right.
share that,
Right.
you know, and be able to resolve those problems, you
Right.
know, because like you said before, everything is not a police problem.
Right. That's right.
You know, so if we can give as far as the resources that needed, I think that's what's important, where the interaction could be a little bit more positive.
Right. Exactly.
When the police and the residents get
Right.
together.
And I think as a community, and I speak for the faith community, but the community at large, I think we're unfair to the police sometimes. Because I think we expect you guys to fix everything. I think we just sit back and we say, okay, Miss Police Officer, get this problem fixed. And I think we want you guys to fix everything. And sometimes we're not willing to tell what we saw. We're not willing to give any information. We're not willing to do anything but point the finger. And I don't think that'll work. So I think everybody, all of us have to dive in. All of us have to help. And we got to work together to do it so that we can have the community we really want to have. And hopefully this weekend inspires somebody in the faith community and other parts of the community to get involved and to get engaged, and not just for this weekend, but on an ongoing basis. We want to get involved so we can build these bridges and build these partnerships. So it's not about the police on one side, the people on the other side, but it's about all of us being on the same side. And that's Team Savannah. That's what this city is all about, Team Savannah. Chatham County calls it Team Chatham. It's about us all working together to build a stronger community.
Absolutely, and I understand as far as the feelings when officers are on the scene.
Right.
You know, so I get both sides.
Right.
Because it could have been a negative interaction in the
Right.
past. You know, that a person had, and they just have to know that that's not the officer that they're dealing with at the time.
Right.
You know, and to give this officer a chance to work with you in order to make it better.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Let's talk about that just for a minute, because a lot of people have a reason to be skeptical. A lot of people have a reason to be fearful. A lot of people have a reason to say, maybe someone's watching and say, well, you know, I really don't like the police. I don't really like being around them, and they have a negative concept. I think that it's important to balance everything.
Yes.
So there's good and bad in everything. There are people that do things wrong and everything. There are good pastors, and there are some pastors that do some very irresponsible things. So there's good and bad in everything. But I think we have to just take a moment and speak to the person, whether it's been a traffic stop or whatever, and they just had a bad experience. I think we can earn their confidence back, but I think we have to be willing to meet them where they are and talk about it.
Right.
Could you just talk to that person a little bit that's just kind of done with the police and they don't like the police?
Right. My main thing is for you to give every officer a chance. And even sometimes, even if you come in contact with the same officer, a second chance once the situation that you went through has been resolved. And you got to pray for a change, like we talk about change of heart.
That's right.
Even in the police.
That's right.
So I think that's something that's very important, that we're given the opportunity once we interact with each other, that we talk things through, we hear each other in order to come up with, just to resolve whatever issues or conflicts that's going on at the time. But I too myself have had bad experiences coming up as far as with officers. I think that's one of my drives, you
Right.
know, to be the person that I am. So, and what not to be,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
So, I think that's very important,
Right.
you know. So, and that's in any profession, but
Right.
as law enforcement officers and even pastors, you're held to a higher standard
Absolutely.
regardless.
Absolutely.
So you have to understand that, and once you take on that oath and that responsibility, then you know what you need to do when you come in contact with the public.
Right.
So
And
I think
that's-
that's important.
Exactly. And that's why I like this connection so much, because I think there are times just because you're a police officer, you got a gun, you got a badge, you got a lot of stuff that you can
Yes.
do a lot of stuff with. But that doesn't mean that you're not a human being. That doesn't mean that you don't need someone to talk to sometimes. And that doesn't mean you don't need a shoulder sometimes. I've been in situations when I've seen big, strong police officers that everybody look at as like, okay, this guy or this lady is just so phenomenal as a police officer. But I've seen the time of vulnerability
Yes.
when they really needed a shoulder, and we all need shoulders. And I think understanding that, it helps us to work together more and understand each other.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Now, I'm very passionate about the youth in the community, and I know you
Oh,
are
yes.
too. And
Yes.
one of my observations, particularly in certain communities about youth, is that youth have this thing where whatever environment they're in and whoever they're surrounded by, they tend to learn from them.
That's correct.
So a lot of youth, when they see the police, they've been taught to run, just run. And they have really no reason to run. But what I think is, I think we have to really help youth understand more so they'll know that you don't have to run. I've taught young people to walk up to a police officer and introduce yourself, tell them your name, ask them their name. And I've used words like they're community helpers. There's somebody here to help you.
Right.
They're the good people, so you shouldn't run from them. I think we have to do a lot of work, faith community, law enforcement community, and engaging young people.
That's true.
And making sure they understand things so that they won't run from the police or they won't be afraid to talk to the police. What do you think about us working more to get into the minds and hearts of young people?
Well, I think I've been on for 20 years.
Right.
I've seen the change. Even I encourage my officers to get out their cars
Right.
and to walk the neighborhood, you know, go into the corner stores,
Right.
because that's what I did. That's how I was trained. I was taught.
Right.
Because you're not going to know anyone from the car.
That's right.
So I think that's very important to talk with the youth. And also, like the different events that Eastside Precinct come up with is to engage the youth and look at things that they enjoy to do.
Right.
You know, and it's not always have to be like the 911 call, but going out, if you see kids that's in the area, my officers got basketballs, footballs in
Right.
their cars to go out and play and talk, you know, talk with these kids and see what they have going on.
Right.
Because they're dealing with a lot
Right.
at a younger age than I have ever dealt with when I was their age. So those are the things that I really feel like the officers, I'm talking about law enforcement,
Right.
that's our responsibility to go out and actually talk to the youth. You know, one thing I don't like is when parents will be like, oh, they'll go to police, or,
Right.
you know, they're gonna lock you up, you know,
Right.
as a form of discipline. You know, when I'm just coming into the store, just talking to them, I'm eating lunch.
Right.
You know, and I think we have to change, even as adults, the way that we present
Right.
police to our children.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important. But one thing is definitely the officers
Right.
engaging them.
Right.
Yes.
And that's my hope in doing this interview. I hope a young boy watches. I hope a
Yes.
young girl watches, and she's looking right at you. And this is a picture right in front of her to say, you know what? This could be me
Oh, it's possible.
in a few years.
Yes.
And this is the path I can take. And, you know, I can go to H.B. Jenkins, even though that wouldn't be the...
Hey, let's not talk about the Warriors. Yes.
But anyhow, you know, somebody's watching and saying, okay, this could be me. This is something I could do. And I think what we're doing is we're showing people, you know, faith community, law enforcement community. I'm from this city. You're from this city. Good things can happen.
Absolutely.
And good things can happen with our youth right in this city. And all they need is the same things we needed and we need. You mentioned law enforcement engaging. Well, when I was a kid, I could tell you the names. of the police officers in our community.
Right.
Because everybody knew them.
Yes.
Everybody knew their names, and it was like we didn't run from them. They were part of it. They were the part of the community.
Right.
And I think we have to go back to that. I know for a fact that our police department, Savannah Police Department, our chief mentor, and our leadership team there, that community policing is something that they always talk about, and you guys always talk about. Now, that is a part of the vision of the Savannah Police Department, community policing, right?
That's correct. Yes, definitely. And, you know, using the resources that we have, like the community centers, a lot of our officers go in there, and when they have programs going on, or they bring the kids in from the community that's not aware of the resources that are there in the community centers. So that's something that we definitely, we do. And it's very important that we keep that open line of communication with our residents and just continue to work. And communication is the biggest thing for us.
That's it.
Yes.
Well, hopefully that'll continue, and hopefully it won't be a one-way thing where you guys are feeling like you're always trying to reach out to the community and you're trying to do things, but the community isn't reaching back. Hopefully both sides will reach out even more, and we'll continue to work together so that we can all see the community shine as a bright light.
Yes, I'm hoping that from this, that the community see that the churches trust police and they will follow suit.
Right.
Yes.
I often hear the police chief say, Chief Mentor, I've heard him on many occasions say that we can't arrest our way out of the problem.
That's correct.
I often hear him say that. And I wonder if everybody understands that even though the police, they must make arrests, there's some people that, I mean, they have to be taken off the street.
Right.
And even being a part of the faith community, we understand that. You've got to take care of certain things. But arresting people will never fix the problem.
It's just a Band-Aid.
Just
That's
a Band-Aid.
That's it. Our main thing is to make sure that we don't have to revisit.
Right.
You know, we're not dealing with the same people, that we see the change, that I have someone coming up to me and like, you remember me? You know, back in the day, and this is where I am now, and they're going to school, they have a career, they have a trade. Those are the things that we want to see.
Right.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Being able to support your own and making sure that you have a quality of life.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, as we begin to wrap this up, so I have a question, kind of like a final question for you. When you look at the world today, you look at law enforcement, you look at our community, you know, there's so many things, you know, COVID-19 has been devastating, a lot of loss. It's not a real popular time to wear the uniform these days. There's a lot of things nationally being said and happening around the country. There's homelessness, there's poverty, there are economic crises, there's single parents trying to take care of families, there's economic disparity, there's so many things we face in the community. As a 20-year law enforcement veteran, one day you're gonna take your badge off and you're gonna take that uniform off. What's your real hope that you've accomplished during your career? I mean, when it's all over, when you look back, what is it that you wanna really say that you accomplished and you really did?
That I have someone to replace me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Just that I'm pouring into the community, into another female or male, but someone that's being able to sit in the seat and command officers to do the same, to treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Right.
Yes.
That's awesome. And I think that's so inspiring, and that's such a blessing, and that's so amazing to hear you say that it's not about you.
No.
And that you're looking for the next Captain Shanita right
Already
now.
working on it.
And I think that's so inspiring because I think so many people, it's about them.
Yes.
And
That's true.
for me as a pastor, like you as a police officer, I have the same hope that you have.
Yes.
That, you know, one of my hopes is that one day I want to come and visit this church. And I want to see someone else doing it and being successful at it. And I want to see them doing a much better job. But I feel the same way you feel. I want to pour into somebody. I want to help them avoid a lot of the mistakes I made.
Yes.
But I also want to tell them things that nobody taught me.
That's true.
Because I had to just learn it on the job.
On your own. Yes.
I want to give somebody that, and I want to share that with somebody. And when I look back, I want to see a community that's being built, a community that's united. And I think one of the ways we accomplish that is through continued partnerships like this between our law enforcement agencies and the faith community. And I pray that these partnerships will continue forever.
Oh, absolutely. And we will.
We will.
Definitely.
You know, I am a supporter of the police.
Yes.
I've had an opportunity to work very closely with police officers, and I close with a story. Uh, I had the responsibility, I don't call it a privilege, the responsibility once of doing a eulogy at a memorial service for a police officer that was killed in the line of duty.
Yes.
And as I sat and listened, as I sat and thought about it, nothing was more emotional to me than that last radio call. And I realized every time you put this uniform on, and every time you go out in the street, every time you answer a call, every time an officer hears their number call,
Yes.
there's pending danger.
That's true.
So I want you to know, and all the officers to know, that we as the faith community, we are continuing to pray for law enforcement everywhere. We're praying that God would cover them. We're praying that God would cover their families, and that some kind of way we'd be able to all continue to work together to make our communities better. And we just would like for you to share that with all of your colleagues and all of your officers at your wonderful precinct and everywhere, and let them know there are people that really care and people that are working hard to help you guys accomplish your
I certainly will. I'll let them know.
Thank you so much,
Oh,
Captain
thank you
Shanita
for
Young.
having me.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
I'm glad they sent you.
Yes.
And this has been an amazing interview.
Thank you.
So for those of you watching today, again, my name is Pastor Charles Roberson, and our interview has been done at Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship on the south side of Savannah. We have a precinct too on the south side, and we're very proud of our precinct as well. This has been an interview about Faith and Blue Weekend, and it is a national weekend. We simply want to continue to build bridges to bring the law enforcement community and the faith community together. Find out where your precinct is, get involved in your precinct, get involved in your community. Always do something every day to make your community better. And we pray that God would bless and cover all of our law enforcement agencies. So thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad that we could talk to you. We're so glad for the bridges we're building between the law enforcement community and the faith community. If you see a police officer, stop, say hello to them, let them know you care, thank them for their service. Keep doing the good work that you're doing. Let's keep building our community, and let's make sure that we keep working toward the best Savannah that we can possibly have. Thank you for joining us, and don't ever forget that the law enforcement community care, the faith community, we care, and together we make things better. Thanks for watching.